more people.
Welcome to Denby Does Dharma. Just having a bit of a giggle with my guest today, Sol Luckman. Welcome, Sol.
Thanks for having me, Denby. It's great to be here.
It's so wonderful to connect with you at last. For those of you who don't know about Sol, he is an international book writer, winner, author, artist. I've written down Mythbuster today as well. Your work, Snooze the Awakening, The Angel's Dictionary, Musings from a Small Island. I know there's a few more. And your recent one, CALI the Destroyer, the winner of the 2022 National Indie Excellence Award. And just basically a researcher extraordinaire of shamanism and all things spiritual. So I'm really excited to dig into a whole lot of juicy topics today. And again, thanks for making time for me.
Well, I say the same to you. Thanks for making time for me. This is great. I'm glad we're doing this finally.
Yep, same. And it's been a few little hiccups, but all good. So let's start. Let's start with the book, because that's the most important thing that the most recent thing that you've put out there. And I was thinking the other night too, is like when you were saying that this term as a psychonaut, I'd love you to just explain that in a moment. But you said that you had a vision and a dream, and that everything that's happening in the world, or has been for the last couple of years in particular, just came to you. And it's this book is a fictional expression of those things that, in brackets, we know are really happening. And I thought, well, that's awesome, Sol. So it's all your fault, firstly, and then secondly,
you busted it.
You've been busted, and
this
then secondly,
mess that I've made.
Look at this mess that you've made. You've got to tidy your mess up, mate. Now you're going to write another book to get us out of this. So let's talk about the book, please. I'll just hand over to you.
Yeah, well, going back and giving some earlier background, years ago I read John Lash's Not in His Image. And it's a wonderful book. It was just reissued, I think maybe this year or last year, another edition. And it really blew my mind. He is a very gifted scholar. Some people have compared him to Joseph Campbell, that level of erudition and scholarship. Very, very bright guy. And he learned the necessary language skills to go back and actually read the Gnostic texts himself. So he's like mucking around in ancient languages and, actually going to the source material, reading it and interpreting it, and not reading someone else's translation and that kind of thing. Like Elaine Pagels, I think was her name. She wrote the Gnostic Gospels back some years ago. She published a book called that. And really it's a Christian view of Gnosticism. Yeah. And Lash basically said that that's completely bogus, that the Gnostics were critics of the Christians on multiple levels. The name Gnostic itself meant basically know-it-all, and it was a pejorative created by the Christians against the Gnostics, who were pointing out lots of problems in Christianity that had to do with who God is, what the nature of this reality is, who the real enemy is, the nature of evil, which is a whole study now, ponerology. And so it was absolutely fascinating to look at what John put forward under the name the fallen goddess scenario. And it was this idea that the planet that we're living on is not only a living being in a ecosystemic sense, and I think a lot of people could agree with that, and not even in a shamanic sense where we're interacting with some form of consciousness. It's a very specific living being. It is the goddess. Her name is Sophia. She came from the center of creation, and she made us as a biological experiment. She also made the archons, who are this extraterrestrial artificial intelligence race, who are basically like our half brothers and sisters. And they are the controllers of our puppet masters. So when people say, well, who's actually trying to enslave us through the New World Order, or who is behind the cabal, or what are we dealing with here? John would say, and I would tend to agree, that we're dealing with an extraterrestrial race called archons, who live a really long time, which helps explain why their plans are carried out over such long periods of time. And they use human proxies to carry out their evil doing. and they hate their mother, and they hate us, and here we are.
Wow, it's just this what is
so that was the background for CALI, which I'll get into in a minute. So I wanted to let people know like where we were in that exposition and that rant.
You know, I love your rants. As I said, I was listening to you with Pete Evans, and you explained that, and I could listen to that. I think I will, and many people listening too will need to actually listen to that story a few times before it really sinks in, and things just click, because the whole scientific Big Bang theory and a lot of people, I think, especially in the New Age spiritual community, are understanding that there's light and dark, there's good and bad, there's God and Satan, but then there's this divide and this resistance to all things biblical and Christianity and Catholicism for obvious reasons. And there's a lot of confusion, and no one really knows exactly what to believe and what to follow. And I've been on that path myself too, Sol, to be honest. In the last 6 to 8 months, I've been researching a lot of this and sharing my experiences with my audience and my community, because I want to know exactly what I'm saying no to, and what I don't understand. I want to go and explore that. And I'm actually reading the Bible now, just out of curiosity as well, and finding it quite fascinating. I've done the whole New Testament, and now I'm up to Leviticus in the Old Testament, which is, I could deal with the New Testament. I get a lot of that stuff, but the Old Testament is full on hardcore.
Oh, it's heavy sledding, no doubt about it.
Unbelievable. So let's go a little deeper then with the fallen goddess before we go into the CALI, into the book, and just weave that into the book. I'm just going to hand it over to you, brother.
Yeah. So the upshot is that the planet, whatever its shape is, whatever you want to say about it, in this model, the planet is actually the terraformed, maybe would be a good word, the terraformed body of a divine being called an eon, whose name is Sophia. Like I said, she's from the realm, the center of creation, which is called the pleroma in these texts. We live in something called the kenoma. I know that a lot of people are embracing Tartarian and flat earth concepts these days, or at least entertaining them. And there's certainly a way that you could model this on a kind of Tartarian or flat earth or even crater earth model, where you could see what maybe the Gnostics could have been talking about, a kind of etheric center of creation that then manifested in this realm. I mean, so you don't necessarily have to have space as NASA would tell us it exists and that kind of thing. So there is a way of looking at this from various perspectives. In any case, in John Lash's work, and he did a lot of psychedelics at various points, and he had interactions with the goddess and basically met her, and she would appear to him often as a gigantic cat. And of course, there's a joke in CALI the Destroyer when this happens to CALI, the main character, and she's this musician. And, not to put too fine a point on it, but, she calls the goddess this great big pussy, right?
Of course.
So it's a joke that she's sharing with her mate, and it's done between two people. But anyway,
well, that's your first blasphemous strike right there, Sol. But continue.
Oh, I got you a strike, huh? Oh, maybe you can edit it. Or are we live? Are we
no, I'm leaving this raw, man. This is great.
Yeah, okay, so leave it raw. So yeah, well, I'm at the band, Pussy Riot. So strike number 2. Anyway, it's absolutely fascinating to look at this notion that we're not just living on the earth or a sentient ecosystem, but that we're interacting with our literal mother.
Wow. Yeah.
Love your mother has never taken on more significance than through this perspective, right? And literally, we are tied to her. It also kind of means that we're not individuated yet.
Yeah, and mummy issues comes up too, doesn't it?
We have mommy issues. We have authority issues, both with the mother and with our older brothers and sisters, the archons. Wow. So we have a lot of growing up to do in a very short period of time. But the one of the very interesting aspects of all of this is it comes out of those ancient texts, and I use a line from one of those as the epigraph for CALI. I was going to pull it up and read that because I really think it offers a lot of context as well as hope for where, what we're going through right now. I'm going to just pull that up and read this epigraph. Now, this is a moment from something called On the Origin of the World, one of these very old texts that John Lash was reading and translating. And this is the Aeon Sophia speaking to the Lord Archon, right? She's actually talking to him before she becomes this realm, before she transforms or terraforms herself, or whatever you want to say about that. So she's talking to him. Now, the thing about the Lord Archon, he's also called the Demiurge. Some people might also call him, and this is where it gets kind of weird for people of faith, he might also be called Jehovah. We're talking about maybe the Christian God here in many aspects. Certainly, he's the Old Testament God, in my opinion. Whether he's the New Testament God, maybe not. But the Old Testament God, not a nice guy. So this is what she has to say to him. And he's literally blind, by the way, even though he says that he created everything, or he believes that he created this whole world that we live in. He's actually blind, and I've called him an overweening prick on numerous occasions. That's essentially what we're looking at here.
Strike three.
You are mistaken. Well, we're going all in at this point. You are mistaken, blind one. There is an immortal child of light who came into this realm before you, and who will appear among your duplicate forms in your simulated world. And in the consummation of all your works, their entire deficiency of truth will be revealed and dissolved by this luminous child. So as I read that, and I think about all of the concepts having to do with ascension, enlightenment, light body, rapture, harvest, all of these types of things, what that looks like to me, what that reads as to me, is a kind of prophecy of a transmutation of the human species. And even if it is just a mental or psychological transmutation, as opposed to maybe a physiological transformation, even if it is simply the growing up of the human species, look what is accomplished. We appear among the duplicate forms. So we're appearing in the archontified world with all these duplicate forms. A lot of them are basically subhuman, or they're archontified humans, or they're completely asleep. We're talking total matrix stuff here. We appear in this simulated world. It's a total technocracy. It's a simulacrum. It's a simulation, as Jean Baudrillard would have said. It's Disneyland. We're here in Disneyland. And in the consummation of all your works, meaning she's speaking to the Lord Archon, to God, their entire deficiency of truth will be revealed. And that's the awakening, the revolution. But then more than that, will be revealed and dissolved by this luminous child. So ultimately, we destroy the whole system. We topple the house of cards.